Fire me whenever you want. Let me tell you how. Using the method of malicious compliance, I got paid a year's salary while basically doing nothing and at the same time putting all my effort into helping the competitors of those who were paying me succeed. The story is very long, but I hope you'll enjoy it. Setting the office of a professional plumbing business that services both residential and commercial properties 6 days a week. Plus responds to emergency calls outside of standard working hours and on Sundays. 3 employees handle distributing service orders among the technicians, issuing invoices, making schedules, ordering parts, and so on. All of us share the same set of skills and we cover for one another whenever necessary. Officially, all of our job titles are dispatcher. This is important. General administrative responsibilities like employee payroll management, accounts receivable and payable, and marketing are all carefully managed and processed at the head office, which also has 2 other similar branches. Participants. The author, a guy in his 30s, single, no kids. The schedule is as flexible as possible. Smashley is a single mother, almost 30, raising 3 rambunctious kids aged 5 to 10. She constantly leaves early and misses workdays, citing motherly duties, hospital visits, school meetings, and so on. Howard is older than dirt. Supposedly, he even helped Noah build the ark. He has even older parents with dementia, and he has an arrangement with his sister. He lives with his parents on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and works on Monday and Thursday. On weekends, he is absolutely unavailable under any circumstances. His sister lives with their parents on Monday and Thursday. He doesn't need his job, but if he quits, his sister will stick him with even more days of taking care of their parents, and he doesn't want that. Essex is a son of a bitch. You are going to meet him a bit later. So, how was everything organized in our company? Howard would come in at 6 in the morning and work on weekdays from Monday to Thursday until 2:30 p.m. Smashley worked from 9 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon every Monday and Friday. Took the kids to school and made sure to leave work early to pick them up. On weekends, she worked remotely from home, and on Fridays, she would come in at 6 in the morning since Howard didn't work on Fridays. I would come in at 11 in the morning, work until 7:30 in the evening on Mondays and Fridays, and be on call for emergency calls after my shift ended. My schedule was different from the one stated in the contract, 8 to 4:30, but this was arranged by mutual verbal agreement. I liked everything, since I loved to sleep in. The system worked perfectly for a couple of years until Smashley messed everything up. One of her primary daily responsibilities was to carefully review and submit the timesheets for payroll. And the head office noticed that one of the employees was consistently getting paid more than the others. It turned out that Smashley was fooling around with one of the plumbers and was adding extra hours for him on the timesheets. This all came to light when a client called about a warranty issue for work that had been done, but we couldn't find any records in the system. The client insisted that our technician had already come, and that the woman on the phone said we offer a 20% discount if paid in cash. We wrote to the head office, checked the truck's GPS tracking data, and their little scheme was finally exposed. She was padding his hours, and on weekends they were doing unauthorized side jobs for cash. Both of them were fired for cause, and Smashley was left alone with 3 kids, without a job and without unemployment benefits. So now it was just me and Howard left. HR and the owner called us in for a meeting and explained that Smashley no longer worked with us. We worked out a temporary schedule until a 3rd person could be hired for the team. Howard worked his usual shift from Monday through to Thursday, regularly staying until 4 o'clock in the afternoon on both Mondays and Tuesdays. He would typically assign the late calls well in advance, which was something we always tried to avoid if possible. The head of the plumbing crew took all emergency calls directly on those Mondays and Tuesdays. I worked my own shift from Wednesday to Sunday, and on Fridays I would come in at 8 in the morning working until my usual shift end time in the evening. On Thursday evening, I would assign the first calls for the morning in advance. I was on call for emergencies from Wednesday to Sunday. We were assured that this was a temporary arrangement until a replacement for Smashley was found. She was fired in May of last year. Given that there were only 2 people in the office, neither Howard nor I could take any time off. There was simply no one to cover for us. On September 1st, Essex got involved in the matter. Essex was brought into the process to handle the administrative tasks, which, to be honest, had been somewhat neglected while Howard and I were left on our own. A variety of problems had piled up: missing purchase requests for spare parts, lost invoices, incomplete income and expense reports, and so on. We were too overloaded just trying to keep the work afloat and didn't have time to deal with all that as well. We were also told that, if necessary, Essex would handle the dispatcher schedule. This guy turned out to be an asshole. He came into the office acting like he was there to put us in our place. I hated him from the very beginning. He was blunt, aggressive, and swore way too much. In short, just a jerk. Fine. Let him handle the external affairs, I thought. Suppliers, orders, parts, fleet maintenance, all that stuff. He was also responsible for payroll timesheets and reporting to the head office. Great. It really doesn't matter to me if I have to put up with this difficult person for a couple of hours for 3 days every single week. Alright, we only crossed paths under the same roof from Wednesday to Friday, from 11 in the morning until he left around 5. That was tolerable. Twice after he showed up, I put in a request for vacation. Both times I was denied. It's worth noting that my contract states I get 3 weeks of vacation per year, and before he arrived, I had only taken 2 days off in the spring. Fast forward to the end of November. By the way, Essex had gotten even worse. He was really starting to get on my nerves, and I was already at my limit. Honestly, I have a bit of an anger management problem. And it was becoming increasingly difficult not to just beat him to a pulp senselessly. And then, the last straw happened. When I took a close look at my timesheet, I saw that I was missing a total of 5 full hours. I get paid not only for the hours listed on the schedule, but also for the time I spent personally handling various emergency calls after my shift ends. Usually, this would bring my weekly total up to 46 or 48 hours, and overtime would start after 44. So those missing 5 hours were actually valuable overtime hours that I had earned. I went to the shift supervisor on Friday payday, Chito, and requested a full explanation. He then replied to me that he had been instructed to cut down on overtime. And if I checked through my email inbox, I would see an order stating that under no circumstances should anyone in this office work overtime. This clearly applied only to me and no one else, because Howard worked only 36 hours a week and didn't take any shifts on call. So why am I 5 hours short on this timesheet? I deducted 30 minutes each day for lunch, but I don't take a lunch break, I just eat a sandwich at my desk. It doesn't matter. I have the right to deduct 30 minutes from your pay every day as an unpaid break. That's the law. But I actually worked during that time. Are you serious? You're deducting hours for breaks I didn't even take? That's the law. If you don't like it, file a complaint with the labor board. I don't have time for this crap. Get back to your damn desk immediately. Start doing your damn job right now. All right, asshole. Now that's too much. You can piss me off as much as you want. You can act like a jerk. I don't care. But if you mess with my money, you'll pay for it. I'll crush you. Harsh. I have a good friend, Eric. We've known each other since school. He's a junior lawyer at one of the best firms in the city. On this past Sunday evening, I decided to invite him out for some beer and wings and asked if his firm handled legal cases specifically like this one up there. You know, it's truly amazing how much incredibly helpful and practical legal advice you can get over a plate of chicken wings and a couple of beers. On Monday, I went to a store on the other side of town and bought one of these things. It's easy to get one. Just Google a spy equipment store in your city or order it on Amazon. I played around with the device a bit and figured out how it works. On Wednesday, I came to work as usual at 11 in the morning, and everything in the office went on as usual until exactly 4 o'clock. Then I took my sandwich, a cold Coke, and a book, and headed over to my car. I didn't have to wait long. At about 4:10, the CEO rushed out to the parking lot and demanded to know what the hell I was doing. I'm having lunch, I replied. The phones are ringing off the hook. Jeff needs to process a card payment, and Mike is about to finish his call. I need you to come back immediately. Sorry, CEO, but if you're not paying me for my break, then I'm not going to work during my break. Either handle it yourself or I'll take care of it checking the timer on my phone, 17 minutes, and I rolled up the window. It was wonderful. The CEO turned red and stomped back into the office. When I came back, he demanded an explanation for what the hell I was doing. I'm entitled to a 30-minute unpaid break. You deducted that time from my timesheet, so now I'm taking my break. I'm entitled to it, that's the law. He was hoarse with anger, but there was nothing else he could say, so I just went back to my desk. 5 minutes later, I received an email instructing me to take my break before 2 o'clock p.m., so I would be back at my desk well before Howard left for the day. I replied to his email, copying the company owner and HR in blind carbon copy. I wrote back that I simply couldn't do that because according to labor law, I'm not entitled to a lunch break until 5 hours after the start of my shift. So I would continue to take my 30-minute break specifically at 4 o'clock. I even attached a screenshot from the labor inspectorate's website to support my position. The supervisor burst into my office and gave me a long dressing down. I didn't budge an inch. That's the law. If there's a problem, go complain to the labor board. On Thursday, right after the supervisor left, I drafted and sent him a letter, once again BCCing the owner and HR. I explained that I had agreed to a temporary change in schedule until a third person was hired for the office, and that I agreed to work according to this schedule until the transition period was over. Now that the supervisor is fully up to speed and working without any issues, I am withdrawing my consent to the schedule change and starting Monday will return to the hours specified in my contract. On Friday, I arrive at 11 in the morning and the supervisor is already waiting for me with a printout of the letter. HR and the owner are calling me non-stop all day. What the hell is even going on? It's simple. When I was hired, my hours were written into the contract. Monday to Friday from 8 o'clock to 16:30. They were changed by verbal agreement. I withdraw my consent and return to the terms of the contract. To hell with that. You will work the same schedule until I say otherwise. The working hours in the contract are the law of contractual relations. If you want to change the hours, we can review the entire contract. You want to change the schedule? Great. Then I want to change the pay rate. A storm of emails began. He was sending me emails, and in my replies I copied HR and the owner because he wasn't including them. I worked on Sunday as usual, and on Monday I came in at 8 in the morning. Howard asked what the hell was going on because SS had already managed to badmouth me to him and to the workers. It's important to understand a good dispatcher in the service industry is rare. There are dispatchers for trucks, taxis, tow trucks, but it's hard to find someone who can handle plumbers and clients, solve their problems. I get along great with all the technicians and they started asking what was going on. I kept my composure and essentially didn't reveal anything. I have a great relationship with all these guys. At the start of the day, I sent SS an email asking, "Are there any late calls? How long do I need to stay?" He replied, "Until all the calls are completed." Perfect. As a result, I worked until 6:30. The same thing happened on Tuesday until 7 o'clock, and on Wednesday as well. Each time I sent emails, and both times SS told me to stay. He replied only to me, and I would respond with a short, "Okay," copying management on the email. By Thursday morning, I had already accumulated 39.5 hours, 38 hours in the office, and 1.5 hours on emergency calls. Around 10 in the morning, I sent an email, again copying management, in which I detailed my hours for the week, and stated that by 12:30, I would have reached 44 hours. And according to SS's directive prohibiting overtime from such and such date, I had no choice but to go home. Before hitting send, I turned to Howard and said, "Get the popcorn ready." SS burst into my office like a hurricane and started demanding an explanation. "Well, SS, I'm just following your directive. You said no overtime, right? So starting from 12:30, I'll be working overtime. Unless you say otherwise, I have to leave. Either you lift the ban or I leave. It's your call." Now, SS is in deep trouble. He was strictly told to cut back on his overtime, but now he'll have to compensate me for my overtime for half of Thursday, all of Friday, and all of Saturday, or sit at the dispatcher's desk himself. "You'll be working on the damn weekend, damn you, you miserable, pathetic piece of garbage. You'll pay for this." "Okay, I need that official order in a written format, and I simply can't work on Sunday." "You have to be working that day. Listen to me, you little bastard. You do not get to tell me when I work, but I am the one who tells you, and you will work this Sunday." "No, the labor law says I'm entitled to 1 day off a week." "I can show you. I worked last Sunday, and I am working every single one of the other days this week. So this coming Sunday is finally my day off. That is the law. Howard can't work, I can't work. So you'll have to work. But my kid has a tournament on Sunday." "Sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. That's the law." This Thursday and Friday, SS was just a sweetheart, believe me. And my little spy hand wrote down his every word. On Monday, I come in, it was I think the 26th of November, and the owner, HR, and SS are already waiting for me. The owner and HR want to know what the hell is going on. They've been getting several reports that I'm being insubordinate and threatening to quit. SS wants to fire me. And just 2 weeks ago, I was the perfect employee. I explained everything and referred to the emails I had sent them, copying them in. They asked, "How did this all start?" And I told them. SS said he was told to reduce overtime. He deducted from my paycheck the hours I had actually worked. He demanded that I return to work during my break, and that I postpone my scheduled break until 3 hours after the start of my shift. I laid out all the facts. The owner gave SS a stern and withering look. "Oh, I never told you to cut back on your overtime hours." They then asked if I would be willing to return to the previous schedule I used to work. "We can certainly discuss it, but since this is a very substantial and significant modification to the terms of my employment contract, we will need to review it thoroughly, including my current pay rate. You can go back to those hours for now, and then we'll schedule a meeting." "No, thank you. If I go back to my previous hours right now, you'll have no reason to schedule a meeting." "First the meeting, then. Once we come to an agreement, you change my hours, we'll discuss it and get back to you." "All right, but we need to discuss this as soon as possible. I'm taking vacation for the last 3 weeks of December." SS exploded right in front of the owner and HR. "Listen here, you dick sucker. You will never go on vacation without my approval, and I'm not approving a single fucking minute of vacation for you." I turned to the owner and HR. "According to labor law, I am entitled to annual leave and by contract 3 weeks. So far, I've only taken 2 days off. I requested vacation twice, and SS denied it both times. I couldn't take vacation during the period between Smashley's resignation and SS's hiring because there were only 2 of us in the office. I get 3 weeks a year, and the year is ending. The company policy is use it or lose it, so I'm using it. HR, will pay you compensation for your accrued vacation. I look at her and reply, "I don't accept your offer. I'm entitled to time. I want the time, not the money." She thought for a minute and said, "We'll carry it over to next year." "I don't accept your offer. I'm entitled to the time this year, not next year." Then the senior supervisor steps in. "But Howard already has 2 weeks booked, and I'm taking my family to Florida. You can't take vacation. There'll be no one left to work." "What? You're going to Florida? So you expect me to handle all the work alone 7 days a week while you're sending out emails forbidding overtime? Are you serious?" I turned back to the owner and HR. "Listen, I had to work a full entire year before I was even eligible for vacation. All of the professional plumbers have to work a full year before they can get their vacation. The law says first a year of work, then vacation. And now he's telling me I can't take my vacation because he's flying to Florida, even though he's only been working here for 3 months. Am I understanding you correctly? You told me to wait with my vacation until we hired a third person. I point at SS. Well, here he is, and I'm taking the vacation I'm entitled to. No payouts, no postponements. And if you want to review my contract, we'll talk in the new year. And I fluttered out of the office. I do not know how the rest of that meeting went, but about an hour later, SS started coming at me again, yelling that now he had lost thousands of dollars and that he would have to tell his young kids they were not going to Disneyland anymore. He insulted me with every foul word he knew. The next 2 weeks were absolute hell. What an asshole he is. He insulted me, saying he wouldn't rest until I was out on the street, that I was the biggest piece of shit he'd ever worked with. And then I went on vacation. I didn't do anything special, didn't go anywhere, just relaxed, unwound, and spent time with my parents over the holidays. In January, I came back and saw that there was a new person sitting at my desk, and the SS was standing next to them with a smug face holding my termination papers. HR marked laid off in the document instead of fired, which was at least a little nicer. In the place where I live, if someone calls a former employer for a reference, the employer is only allowed to state the dates of employment and whether the former employee is eligible for rehire. And so, a few days into January, SS gets a call. Hello, SS. My name is Eric. We're reviewing a resume. They mention my name? He listed you as his last employer. You're on speakerphone. What can you tell us about him? SS exploded like a stick of dynamite. He started calling me every name in the book. He said I was a terrible worker, lied about me skipping work, and started spouting all sorts of nonsense. I let him get it all out. Hey, SS, do you recognize my voice? He immediately went silent. Yeah, you bastard. I recognize your voice. Ever heard of that prestigious, well-known law firm Dewey, Screwham, Ober and Hoovey? They're lawyers, and this call was made from their conference room. It was nice chatting, SS. Next, we'll call the company owner and find out the name of his lawyer. After some time, a meeting was scheduled. The owner, HRSS, the owner's lawyer, me, and Eric were present. Eric explained that I was initiating a wrongful termination lawsuit, and the purpose of this meeting was to discuss the possibility of a settlement. We laid everything out, every email, the timeline of events, and then the key detail, a compilation of audio recordings where SS is yelling, threatening, losing his temper, and generally behaving like SS. It was wonderful. SS turned pale. The owner kept looking at him as if he wanted to wipe him off the face of the earth. We were asked to step out for a few minutes. Eric and I went to grab some coffee and have a laugh. 20 minutes later, we were told to come back. The owner's lawyer said that they do not admit any guilt or wrongdoing, but as a gesture of goodwill, they are willing to offer me a 3-month severance package if I sign a waiver of claims. Eric smiled, declined, and played a recording of the phone conversation about the recommendation. He also mentioned that he was physically present during that call, as were 2 of his colleagues who were prepared and willing to sign written statements. Another break. We came back and they raised their offer to 6 months. We made a counteroffer, 2 years of severance pay. In the end, we finally settled on 15 months. With payments every single 2 weeks as if I was still working. Moreover, the amount was calculated based on the average number of hours over the last 6 months of my employment, and during those 6 months, I had a lot of overtime. They even tried to insert a clause prohibiting me from working in the same industry while the agreement was in effect. But Eric noticed it and crossed it out. My skills are in demand on the market, so I quickly found a new job doing the same thing, but now for one of their competitors. It's awesome. Those guys pay me at the end of one work week, and the new company pays me at the end of the other. The money just keeps piling up, and Eric charged me a very modest fee for his services. As for SS, he was terminated from his position almost immediately. Thanks to my efforts and the owner's network of professional contacts, rumors about this situation spread, and the guy basically became untouchable in the industry. As far as I know, he is still looking for a new job. I immediately told my new employer to throw out his resume if he ever happens to come across it. But if I ever receive a call for a reference about SS, all I can say is that I worked with him for 4 months back in 2018. I can't say anything more than that. That's the law. Don't like the way I park? That is perfectly fine. I'll follow every single rule to the letter. A couple of months ago, I had a run-in with the self-proclaimed HOA inspector of our neighborhood. Let's call her Linda. For context, I don't live in a neighborhood with an HOA. But Linda behaves as though we live in the strictest possible HOA in the entire world. She's the type of person who leaves passive-aggressive notes on cars, knocks on doors to complain about lawn height, and calls City Hall about violations that don't even exist. It all started when I parked my car on the street in front of my house. This is completely legal, and I've been doing it for a long time, but there have never been any complaints. But one day, Linda decided that my car was ruining the view. One day, I found an unpleasant note under my windshield wiper. This is not a parking spot. Park in your own driveway like a neighbor who respects himself and others. Don't make me contact the city administration. This really made me quite angry, but I didn't pay much attention to it and kept parking at the curb as usual. Linda was not satisfied with this at all. The next time she approached me in person. Linda, I've already told you, parking on the street is unacceptable. You have a driveway. Use it. Me, it's allowed to park here. I'm not bothering anyone. Linda, that doesn't matter. It looks bad and ruins the appearance of the neighborhood. Park in your own yard or I'll report you. Well, if she wants me to park in my driveway so badly, fine, but now I'm going to do everything by the book. You see, my driveway is actually quite small. If I park my car there, it blocks the sidewalk. Technically, that's a violation of city regulations. So the next day, I carefully pulled my car onto the driveway, parked right in the center, and completely blocked the sidewalk. Linda didn't take long to show up. She rushed to my door, red as a beet. Linda, you have no right to block the sidewalk. That's illegal. Me. Oh, I thought you wanted me to park in my driveway. Linda, but not like that. Park properly. Me. Honestly, there's no other way for me to park in my driveway without blocking the sidewalk. So I guess I'll just have to park out on the street once again. You should have seen her face. She muttered something and walked away. I thought that was the end of the story and parked my car on the street. But no, Linda didn't give up. She actually called the city administration. A week later, an inspector came. He looked, made sure my car was parked on the street completely legally, and said I wasn't breaking any rules. He also mentioned that Linda had already called several times to complain about violations in the neighborhood, and the administration was pretty tired of her. After that, she quieted down for a little while. Until last week, when she suddenly started parking her car on the street right in front of my house. Well, I did exactly what any good neighbor would do. I called the city administration and filed a complaint. It turned out that her car was parked just a bit closer to the fire hydrant than allowed. She got a ticket? Sometimes malicious compliance can be damn satisfying. Thank you so much for watching. Share your own stories of spiteful compliance in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our other videos. Hugs, see you tomorrow. Bye.